Hello. How is everyone? Happy Thursday. All right. So, as you guys can tell by the title that I'm talking about, the torso killer, which, oh, sorry, um, happened between 1935 and 1938, and he at least dismembered 12 victims, and only 2 were positively identified. And they finally had updates from last year that I kind of found while I was just on Google, and I thought it was pretty interesting to bring up to you guys. Hey, hey, hey. But the torso killer is probably something pretty much I think a lot of people know of. Um, but I just thought it was a good topic to bring up on for you guys. Also have 2 um, articles for you guys. One is all about the case. One is all about the case and the information on it, just in case there are people who don't know who their torso killer is. And then the other article is about him from updates on last year. That's crazy. What year did this happen? It happened from 1935 to 1938. So, and I think like some of it is like the beginning of 1920s, I think, from me kind of like glancing over the article I found. So it was like years, years ago. Hey, Four, how are you? I had never heard of this Deaf Interested. Well, I heard of him like from cuz I watch Code Case episodes, so like I heard of him. But I didn't know there's anything new about it that happened last year until I was looking for a new case online. So I thought it was a pretty good case to bring up. So long ago and got updates last year. That's awesome what they were able to get info. I know it's amazing, probably with the new technology of everything, that they were able to find him. Okay, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring up this article for you guys to look at with me as I read. So during the 1920s, Cleveland was a city on the rise. The population was booming with new immigrants from around the globe joining the workforce that served the backbone of the city's industrial and manufacturing economy. Jeez. The city's wealth lived in the grand homes along Millionaires Row and supported many new educational and cultural institutions. However, Cleveland was hit hard by the Great Depression of 1929. During the 1930s, city leaders worked to help its struggling citizens and rise the community's moral. The Great Lakes explosion and the Republican National Convention were scheduled for 1936 against this backdrop of a large city improving economically. One of the most prolific and gruesome serial killers of all time carried out his acts of horror, distracting the citizens of our city from the pride and prosperity of the times. 13 people were brutally murdered over the course of 4 years, beginning in 1934. All of them decapitated, most of them while they were still alive. Then the murders ended as abruptly as they began. Although Safety Director Elliot Ness claimed to have solved the crimes, no suspect was officially identified and no one was brought to trial. To this day, the Kingsbury Run murders remain one of the most sensational and intriguing and unsolved crimes in our nation's history. So Kingsbury Run is a prehistoric riverbed running from the flats along the area along the Kuya River near Lake Erie to about East 90th Street. Train and rapid transit tracks still run through the run, bordered on the north by Woodland Avenue and on the south by Broadway Avenue. Kingsbury Run was a dark, dreary, and dangerous place in the 1930s. The dispossessed of the Great Depression lived in the appalling conditions, trash and filth dominating the makeshift hobo jungle that occupied much of the run. These people, most of them transits, often rode the rails to escape the brutal Cleveland winters or simply to keep moving. The area just to the east of the run was known as the Roaring Third police precinct, home to bars, brothels, flop houses, and gambling dens. In this grim setting, the most notorious murder case in Cleveland's history would unfold. September 1934. A young man found the remains of a woman in her mid 30s, the torso with thighs still attached, but amputated at the knees, had washed up on the shores of Lake Erie, just east of Broughton. Uh, Kuya, I hope I'm saying that right. County Coroner A.J. Pierce noted that a chemical preservative, I think so, on the skin, which had turned it red, tough, and leathery. The subsequent search yielded just a few other body parts, but her head was never found. The woman was never identified, as soon uh, referred to as the Lady of the Lake. It wasn't until 2 years later that this find was included in the official killing total and thus became known as a victim number 0. It would be another year before the case began officially, and then it would be in another part of the city, the now infamous Kingsbury Run. September 1935, two teenage boys discovered the decapitated and mutilated corpse of a white male at the base of Jackass Hill, um, where East 49th Street dead ends into Kingsbury Run. The body, naked save for a pair of socks, was clean and drained of blood with rope burns around both wrists. Coroner Pierce determined the cause of death had been decapitation. Oh my God. Um, Fingerprints identified this victim as Edward Andrassy, a 28-year-old white male who frequented the Roaring Third. While searching the crime scene, police discovered a second body nearby, also decapitated and emaciated. It appeared to be covered with the same chemical preservative as the Lake of the Lady. This body apparently had been dead for at least a couple of weeks. The 40-year-old white male was never identified. And these are just some of the pictures of the victims. Oh my God, that's sad. And this is a picture of the victim number 3. Oh God. Mind you, this is a very long article, so just beware of yourselves. Let me just catch up on chat real quick. Wow, that's horrible. I know. I'm just reading it and I'm like making a face. And I'm like, this is terrible. Hey, Blue Scarlet, how are you? Some crazy stuff happening in that area. My goodness, right? Like, so many bodies already. If it's too long to read, you can drop us the link and we can finish up on it. Okay, I'm just reading some about the victims and everything. Jeez. I don't think these are all of his victims. I think these are just some of them. But, I mean, I'm just going to read just a little bit from each little section. And then if you guys want to read everything there is, I'll drop the link for it below. Oh gosh. And then victim number 3 was Flo Palillo. January 1936, a woman discovered parts of a woman's body neatly wrapped in newspaper and packed in 2 half-bushel baskets. The baskets were left alongside the Hart Manufacturing Building on Central Avenue near East 20th Street. The rest of the remains, except the head, were recovered about 10 days later in a nearby vacant lot on Orange Avenue. Oof. Jeez. In 1936, early one morning in Kingsbury, 2 young boys discovered the head of a white male wrapped in a pair of trousers close to the East 50th Street Bridge. The next day, Cleveland police found the body of the 20-something-year-old man the next day, dumped in front of the Nickel Plate Railroad police building. Clean and drained of blood, the corpse was intact except for their severed head. Oh. Jesus, man has something for heads. Gee. Oh my gosh. Okay, so July 1936, a teenage girl came across the decapitated remains of a 40-year-old white male while walking through the woods near Clinton Road and Big Creek on the near west side of Cleveland. The victim had been dead about 2 months, and his head, as well as a pile of bloody clothing, was found nearby. Oh my gosh. September 1936, a man tripped over the upper half of a man's torso while trying to hop a train at East 37th Street in Kingsbury Run. Cleveland police searched a nearby pool, which was nothing more than a big open sewer, and found the lower half of the torso and parts of both legs. Police sent a diver in to make the recovery. The number of onlookers that turned out to watch the grim spectacle was estimated at over 600, and the killer may well have been among them. So the killer could have been watching them dig up these bodies. Like, could you imagine being one of those people in like the audience, like watching this, and you could be right next to the person who did it? That is scary. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to read some of it. It's like personal conversation between you guys. So, all right. So, fall of 1936, media frenzy, 6 brutal killings in 1 year, and the police had neither clues nor suspects. The Cleveland Press, the Cleveland News, and the Cleveland Plain Dealer all reported almost daily on the killings and the lack of a suspect. Tension was high. Who was the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run? Giving in to mounting pressure from Mayor Harold Burton, recently appointed safety director Elliot Ness got more involved in the case. Coroner Pierce called for what the newspapers dubbed a torso clinic, a meeting of police, the coroner, and other experts to discuss information and to profile someone who could be responsible for these gruesome killings. The police department put detectives Peter Merylo and Morton Zaleski on the case full time. They moved deftly through the seedy underworld that constituted the Run and the Roaring Third, often dressing the part while off duty. By the time the case had run its course, the two had interviewed more than 1,500 people. That is a lot. The department as a whole, more than 5,000. This would be the biggest police investigation in Cleveland history. And then this is the Detective Peter undercover. Wow. crazy. The November elections returned Harold Burton as mayor, but Coroner Pierce was replaced by the young Democrat and now legendary Samuel Gerber. Gerber's fierce dedication to medicine, coupled with his law degree, put him at the forefront of the investigation. February 1937, a man found the upper half of a woman's torso washed up on shore east of Broughton. Unlike the previous victims, the cause of death had not been decapitation. This had happened after she was already dead. The lower half of the torso washed ashore 3 months later at about East 30th Street. The woman was in her mid-20s. She was never identified. June 1937, a teenage boy discovered a human skull under the Lorain Corniche Bridge. Next to it was a burlap bag containing the skeletal remains of what turned out to be a petite black woman about 40 years old. Dental work allowed for the unofficial identification as Rose Wallace of Scoville Avenue. Police followed every lead they had on her. They led nowhere. Oh, this is just crazy. So July 1937, there were labor problems in the flats in the summer of 1937, and the National Guard had been called in to maintain order. A young guardsman standing watch by the West 3rd Street Bridge saw the first piece of victim number 9, body in the Coya River in the wake of a passing tugboat. Over the next few days, police recovered the entire body, except for the head, from the waters of the Coya River. The abdomen had been gutted and the heart ripped out, clearly indicating a new element of viciousness in the killer's approach. The victim was in his mid to late 30s. He was never identified. April 1938. A young laborer on his way to work in the flats saw what he at first thought was a dead fish along the banks of the Coya River. Closer inspection revealed it to be the lower half of a woman's leg, the first piece of victim number 10 to be recovered. A month later, police pulled 2 burlap bags out of the river containing both parts of the torso and most of the rest of both legs. For the first time, Coroner Gerber detected drugs in the system. Were the drugs used to embolize the victim, or was she an addict? The answer might have come if they had found the arms, but they never did. She was never identified. August 16th, 1938. 3 scrap collectors foraging in a dump site at East 9th and Lakeside found the torso of a woman wrapped in a man's double-breasted blue blazer, and then wrapped again in an old quilt. The legs and arms were discovered in a recently constructed makeshift box, wrapped in brown butcher paper and held together with rubber bands. The head had been similarly wrapped. Gerber noted that some of the parts looked as if they had been refrigerated. While searching for more pieces, the police discovered the remains of a second body only yards away. These 2 bodies had been placed in a location that was in plain view from Elliot Ness's office window, almost as if taunting him. Neither victim number 11 or number 12 were ever identified. That's scary. Most of these cases were just never identified. So I'm going to skip these last few, and then I'm going to skip to this last one, but I'm going to drop the link for you guys. So who was the torso murderer? While the case is officially unsolved, many believe the identity of the torso murderer of Kingsbury Run has been known since the 1930s. Mysterious Dr. X was investigated by the police and interrogated by Elliot Ness, but no physical evidence was found linking him to the crimes. Most likely, Dr. X was Francis E. Swinney, an intelligent, skilled, and very troubled surgeon who lived near Kingsbury Run. Dr. Sweeney had the surgical know-how as well as access to facilities ideally suited for dismembering bodies. despite a week-long interrogation by Elliot Ness and other high-level investigators. Sweeney never confessed. However, immediately after Sweeney committed himself to a sanatorium, the murders stopped. Jeez, that's just So let me go ahead and drop this for you guys in chat. So this is the link right here for the article I just read for you guys who wanted to really go in and read. Sorry guys, I'm trying to scroll up to okay, so wait, what is this in Cleveland, Texas? No. Cleveland, Ohio, I believe. I just want to be sure before I say that, and it's like actually in Texas. But I believe that it was in Ohio. Yes. Okay. Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, I was right. Sorry. I just had to double check that because was not paying attention. So I'm not sure is there Cleveland, Texas? Not that I know. I mean, I honestly do not know. So so many that are unidentified. So yes, Daisy, there are a lot that were unidentified, which is sad. But I mean, I would have thought that mostly people would have families that would report them missing. But then again, you just never know. What the heck? Where all these people's heads are going? He must be keeping them as a souvenir, is what I'm guessing, because some of them are found with heads in other places with other bodies. And others are just nowhere to be found. So I honestly do not know. I wish I did. Hello, rapper. How are you? Hope everyone is having a great night or day. You too. It's still pretty much, I mean, kind of daylight over here. It's like evening, I guess you can say. You're doing amazingly. Thank you. I appreciate it. He definitely knew what he was doing if they couldn't find evidence to tie him to the crimes. Exactly. He knew exactly what he was doing. That's not sus. Committing himself to a sanatorium. Yeah. I mean, that's what a lot of people do these nowadays, too. They claim themselves to be crazy so that they get, sent to a mental hospital so that they don't have to go to prison. I mean, it's sad. I mean, a lot of them claim to be insane. And then the murder stopped, so nobody was ever arrested. Nope. Nobody was ever arrested. You know what case I'm waiting for? The Brian Kohlberg case. I don't really cover the Brian Kohlberg case just because I don't really know a whole lot on it. And I kind of just keep up with other people who are going over the case. Daisy has pretty much talked to me about it and kept me on updates about it, but I personally don't really go over that case. It's a lot for me. But I mean, everybody, has been going over it. Hey Daisy, did you ever look up that case I told you about that happened around my town when I was in high school? What? Hi, Mel. How are you? Oh, yeah, it is morning for you. Good morning. Did you have your tea yet? Idaho case is going to be wild because it's already a lot of ish going on. Yeah, that's why one of the main reasons why I do not want to go over that case. Um, all right, guys. So I think I'm pretty much caught up on it. So now I'm going to bring up my other article with you guys. So, torso killer pleads guilty to murdering 5 women in the 1960s and 1970s. Mind you, this article is from December 5th, 2022, so it's from last year. A convicted serial killer pleaded guilty Monday to murdering a dance teacher in 1968 outside a Long Island, New York mall and admitted to killing 4 other women in the early 1970s. Um, DNA testing led to Richard Cunningham's March indictment in the killing of Diane Cusick, a 23-year-old mother who went to buy dance shoes at the Green Acres Mall in Valley Stream, New York. Oh, guys, hold on just 1 second. I think I have the wrong article from before. Please tell me I did not do this research wrong. I'm gonna be really upset if I did this wrong. Oh my gosh. How many torso killers could there be? I mean, this one talks about Long Island, New York, a torso killer. I don't even know at this point. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Give me just 1 second, okay? I am so sorry, you guys. Am I must have been just so tired the day that I did this research. I'm not completely sure, but I have the right article on the right torso killer. You see, the thing is that he's called the torso killer, and the article is named the torso killer. But there's one that was in Cleveland, Ohio, and then there's one that is in New York that is also called the Times Square killer. I think that's what he's mostly known as. And I completely had the wrong article at the beginning. Oh Lord. Okay. So let me bring up the right article to have the background history on, and then we'll get to the article that I was trying to read. Yeah, don't just we're just gonna forget about the article at the beginning. This is totally my fault. Um I think that's where my head is at right now too, Mel. Okay, so this one is the right torso killer that struck terror in New York City in the 1970s. So it took a detective in the U.S. state of New Jersey almost his entire career to win a game of cat and mouse with serial killer Richard Cottingham. The thin 64-year-old Cottingham was known as the torso killer for a spat of horrifying murders in the late 1970s in New York City. By day, he seemed an average father of three living in a suburban New Jersey and commuting to Manhattan, where he had a good job as a computer programmer. But when night fell on New York, Cottingham's mask of respectability slipped. He stalked Times Square, where he would hire women selling sex before taking them to motel rooms and killing them. He was finally caught in 1980 and sentenced to life in prison for the deaths of 5 young women. But Detective Robert Anzalati always had a gut feeling there was more to the story. On his desk, he had a pile of cold cases involving the murders of women and young girls from New Jersey and New York in the late 60s and early 70s. No one but Anzalati had ever thought to link the torso killer to the unsolved killings. The victims and the circumstances of their deaths were entirely different to Cottingham's known crimes. And yet, Anzali just knew the man responsible was sitting in New Jersey State Prison, serving time for the deaths of 5 people, but denying answers for the loved ones of several more. In 2004, he began to visit Cottingham in jail. He'd play cards with him, occasionally order a pizza, any little treat that might break up the monotony of prison life, and get Cottingham to open up about his past. He's very intelligent. He can be affable. And as Ali told local media last year, he's very talkative about nonsense. He's happy to talk to you just to occupy his time. Finally, after 6 years, Cottingham spontaneously decided to reveal one of his secrets to the detective. I'm going to give you one, the killer said to the police officer. The young suburban mother. In October 1967, 29-year-old Nancy Vogel told her family she was heading down to the local church for a game of bingo with friends. The married mother of two would be found 3 days later, bound and strangled to death in her own car. Her murder remained unsolved for 43 years until Cunningham confessed. Prosecutors cannot be sure but assume that Vogel may have been an acquaintance of Cunningham's, given they were both raising young families in Little Ferry, New Jersey. Despite his notary, Cunningham seemed fearful of further media attention. He told Anzali he would only confess to the murders he got away with if he could do so quietly. He would always tell the victims' families, but we would never do press conferences or press releases. And as Ali said, we had a larger goal, which is to get every homicide out of him. Despite arranging a secret nighttime court appearance so he could plead guilty away from the glare of the spotlight, local reporters still found out what was going on. Cunningham vowed to never speak to Anazali again and to take his secrets to the grave. But after a year of silence, Cunningham grew restless in his prison cell and asked Anazali to come see him. Their physiological game was back on. Oh, the teenagers trying to get home. Over the next few years, Cunningham would slowly reveal to Anazali that he was responsible for the deaths of 3 more people. First, in 2014, he casually mentioned that he had strangled to death an 18-year-old woman in the spring of 1969. Her name was Arlene Blaze, and she had vanished one evening while waiting for a bus to take her back to her mother's house. And Azali wanted to keep Cunningham talking, but the only way he could do that was if he struck an unusual bargain with the victim's family. He called the Blazes and broke the bittersweet news. He had found Arlene's killer, who was already behind bars for the rest of his life, but he needed them to make one sacrifice. In a bid to shake loose more of Cunningham's secrets, Anazali asked if he could quietly close Arlene's case without charge. Oh gosh, that had to have been hard. Arlene's loved ones agreed. Hopefully, they could give other victim families the answers they deserved. So, this is the young girl. Oh. A clearer picture was emerging of Cunningham's murky early years in suburban New Jersey. Several months after he killed Irene, he confessed to murdering Denise Falaska, a 15-year-old he lured into his car with the promise of a lift home. Wow. Police had always suspected one perpetrator was behind the killing of the two teens, but then Cunningham shocked everyone by revealing another victim. In 1968, Jackie Harp, just 13, oh my gosh, it gets younger. Sorry guys, that was Daisy in the background. In 1968, Jackie Harp, just 13 years old, was walking home from band practice when a man in a car offered her a lift. She refused and ran off. Witnesses saw the man give chase, force the child into his car, and drive off. She would later be found strangled to death in a wooded ravine. Oh. And Azali couldn't give Jackie, Irene, and Dennis's families justice, but he could assure them Cunningham would never walk the streets of New Jersey again. Jackie's childhood best friend, Cindy Neal, who had called the prosecutor's office every year for 50 years asking for an update, struggled with the resolution to the case. At first, I didn't want to believe it, and then I thought, now I have someone to blame for everything, she said. That was a lot of crap to carry for 50-something years, she told the New Jersey Herald last year. But as Anazali approached retirement, he had one loose end that Cunningham stubbornly refused to allow him to tie up. Just something to say hi. Can't stay though. We just found out a very close friend died. Oh, I'm sorry, Kristen. So this guy at least confessed. The other case, they had nothing. Yes. Wow. So let me go back to this one for you guys. Once I give you that case, I'll never see you again. By March last year, Anazali was ready to move on with his life. He had been a police officer for nearly 3 decades, half of which he had spent locked in a psychological game with a serial killer. He went to Cunningham and broke the news. Cunningham, who had spent half of his life in a high security penitentiary, with only the detective's occasional visits to break up the monotony, I guess I use that right, urged him to reconsider. For the 17 years they had been talking, Cunningham had dangled the possibility of one more revelation. New Jersey had long been haunted by the grisly deaths of two teens, Mary Ann Pryor and Lorraine Mary Kelly, who had vanished in 1974 while trying to hitchhike to a local shopping mall. Their bodies were found in the woods 5 days later. Scarcely they had drowned, but there were no bodies of water nearby. With just days to go before Anazali handed in his badge, Cunningham finally gave in. I was with them for a couple of days and got to know them, Cunningham said of the teens, according to an official police transcript of his confession. The deaths of Mariana and Lorraine represented a dramatic escalation in Cunningham's violence against women. He admitted luring them into his car after they gave up waiting for a bus to take them to the mall where they planned to buy new swimming costumes. Days of horror in a New Jersey motel room ended when he drowned both girls in the bathtub. And as Ali told the New York Times, he believed Cunningham had several reasons to keep this particular crime to himself. Despite the terror he unleashed on American women and girls for decades, somehow this particular crime caused him something akin to shame. He's embarrassed by this case, and Alonzi said the aging killer might have also feared losing his only visitor, sporadic visits. He said, I know once I give you that case, I'll never see you again. And Alonzi said, he enjoys our relationship, he enjoys our time together. In April last year, Cunningham went to court and admitted to the murders of Marion and Lorraine. 2 life sentences to be served concurrently were added to his 200 years of prison time. 5 days later, Anazali finally walked away. He had no illusions about his connection with the killer. I was like a game to him, he told the local media after the plea deal was struck. So he has problems with women. Oh. Okay, so this one I'm going to drop the proper article for you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and read the article that I started reading earlier. Okay. Whew, that is a lot. A lot. Okay, now to the right one. A convicted serial killer pleaded guilty Monday to murdering a dance teacher in 1968 outside a Long Island, New York mall, and admitted to killing 4 other women in the early 1970s. DNA testing led to Richard Cunningham's March indictment in the killing of Diane Kuzak, a 23-year-old mother who went to buy dance shoes at the Green Acres Mall in Valley Stream, New York. Cunningham, 76, currently an inmate at a Bridgeton, New York prison, is known as the torso killer because he dismembered some of his victims. The Southwood State Prison inmate pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 25 years to life by a judge. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry, guys. So Cunningham also admitted to the deaths of 4 other women: Mary Beth Haynes, Laverne Moe, Sheila Hyman, and Maria a murder. Oh, geez. Rosado Knives. I hope I said that right. Neves. But won't be prosecuted for their deaths since he's already spending the rest of his life in prison because of prior murder convictions in New York and New Jersey, according to Nassau County District Attorney. Oh, this is him now, 76. Serial killer Richard Cunningham has caused irreparable harm to so many people and so many families, Donnelly said. Today he took responsibility for the murder of 5 young women here in Nassau County between 1968 and 1973. He overpowered, assaulted, and brutally murdered them to satisfy his craven desires. Thankfully, he will spend the rest of his life in prison where he belongs. Kuzak's parents discovered her body in the back seat of her car in the Green Acres Mall parking lot after growing concerned about Sorry about that. So Greensi's parents discovered her body in the backseat of her car in the Green Acres Mall parking lot after growing concerned about why she hadn't returned home after leaving earlier in the evening of February 15th, 1968, to buy shoes, according to Donnelly. A medical examiner determined Cusack was strangled to death, officials said. The Nassau County Office of the Medical Examiner retested evidence related to the case in 2021. Earlier this year, DNA evidence matched Cunningham's profile, according to the district attorney. Wow, that was a lot of just everything. Jeez. But I mean, I'm just happy that he is in prison and that he's serving his time and that he took responsibility for what he did. But what is kind of sad that he had to, the investigator had to get two of these families, had to close their case privately, and, couldn't voice out that, the guy in prison had did it. I mean, I'm pretty sure it came out now, but at the time, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was hard for them to agree upon to close the case privately. But I guess, I mean, it's good that they got the closure they needed for their loved one's case. So, death had to be hard. Yes, most definitely. Yes, closure is so important. Too many go without closure. I know. But talking about closure, I heard that the Petitos were also getting the closure they needed, from Gabby about Gabby's case, which thank God, because we honestly thought they were going to go longer before they had the closure they needed. So, I think Daisy is going to go live about that. I think whenever more information is put out about it. So yeah, guys, keep a lookout for that. But they're getting closure and depositions, which will hopefully come out in court. Yes, hopefully. And the court date is next year, which sucks. But I mean, at least they're getting the closure in the meantime that they need. So I appreciate you guys coming in and commenting. Thank you to my mods and my subscribers. And thank you to everyone for coming in and chatting with me today. I hope everyone has a good day, or a good night, and I love you guys.